Programming a temperature sensor into your Ventra XT. To navigate to where you need to be, you can do the menu hotkey on the screen and then go to System and Control Device Setup. And from here is where you're going to add all your control devices. We're going to tap on and highlight Add Control Device, press Enter, and we're going to choose from our list of all the different devices that can be programmed into your Ventra XT. And at the very top we have air sensor, so you can use the plus to go up and down also, or your arrow keys to get to where you want to, or just touch the screen. Once it's highlighted in blue, press Enter. And now we're going to choose the number sensor it is, which in this case it is the first sensor we're programming, so it's going to stay at number 1. Hit the arrow, changes under the Z1, so that's going to be if you have multiple zones in your barn, you would set that for zone 1, zone 2, whichever zone it is in. We're going to leave that at Z1 for zone 1, and then we're going to go down to module 1. This particular air sensor is wired to the interconnect board, so that will be considered module 1. Now, if you happen to choose to wire it to the new analog input board, that would have to be programmed as module 3, and then the channel it was wired to. But in this case, we're going to leave it at module 1 because that is the analog inputs that are on the interconnect board. Arrow over, and we do have that programmed to channel 1, but of course you could just change it with the plus or the minus to go to whichever channel you have it wired to. Press Enter, then press Enter to confirm, and so we have now wired our first temp sensor into the Ventra XT. As you can see, we already have a temperature showing, but there's some further setup that we need. So again, we can hit the menu hotkey, go to Input Devices, because this is an analog input device, and there it shows up your air sensor. Tap your air sensor, and now you have the rest of the settings that you need to program to finish. Tap, highlight it as we did before, it'll highlight blue. Now we're going to set the cable length. In our setup, we have about 50 feet of wire, so we're going to input that, press Enter, arrow down. The wire gauge, we have 24 wire gauge, so we're going to leave it at that, but you can change that to, if you have 22 or 24, which is kind of standard, so we're going to leave it there. Arrow down. Temperature offset would be in the event that you felt your temperature sensor was not quite reading exactly right, maybe be a little bit off. You can actually change that, say you thought it was 1 degree off. You can set an offset for that temperature sensor. But in our case, we're going to leave it at 0 because it's reading correctly. Arrow down. Now, because this is a bird application, we have the choice to assign it to a location, be it brood, grow out 1, grow out 2, depending on how your barn is laid out. And remember, if you put it in one of the grow out 1s or grow out 2s, it will take into account and look at that sensor only when you are in that grow area. Now, if you put it in brood, it's going to always be in those higher ones. But in the event that you are brooding and you have a sensor in grow out 2, when you assign that and you are setting your controller for the brood only, it will not look at that sensor during that time of the flock. And we'll show you more of that later. In this case, we're leaving it in the brood zone. We're going down. Now, this sensor is just a temperature sensor. We do make a air sensor that reads temperature as well as wind speed, but in this case we only have the air sensor only reading temperature, so we're going to tell it no. And as you can see, it grayed that out once we told it no, because we don't need to put any cal values in for a standard temperature sensor. So we have now set our air sensor, and as you can see, we have a working air sensor there.